What's going on, guys? Welcome back. We have a brand new season of Marvel Snap, Deadpool versus Wolverine. And even though the cards aren't exactly all Deadpool cards, we've got really unique abilities and cards coming to the game. And Alex and I are going to rank them all, talk about synergies, and give you guys the agency, everything you need to know on if you should buy them or not. We're going to break down Gwenpool, the season pass card, alongside all these crazy cards coming out alongside her. And then finally, we're going to talk about kind of what's coming out in July. It's a packed heavy month of features and stuff, and Marvel Snap, or at least what's to come and what dates they're dropping. We're going to talk about that all today and more on this episode of the Snapchat. And as always, I am joined by Mr. Alex Coccia on this beautiful day and heading into the new season, our favorite episode each and every month, and we're coming fresh off Airsham week, dude. What a week of Marvel Snap. This might have been, I can say confidently, it was my favorite week of the year as far as Snap goes, man. And just for the community to see everybody, most of them having a good time, man. How was your week of Snap and how you doing?
You're right, man. It was a ton of fun this week. Airsham absolutely landed. It was, mirror match after mirror match. But the crazy thing about it is, unlike like the Annihilus mirror matches we saw when Annihilus came out, these were fun mirror matches where like you didn't really know what to expect. Everyone's decks are different anyways, so it didn't feel like you're playing the same thing over and over and over again. Honestly, so much fun this week. And I don't know about you, but the vibe in the community as a whole was super, super positive. Like, people were legitimately excited to play Marvel Snap again, and that, like, it just revitalized me. Like, it made me super excited to, like, make videos and play the game and engage with the community. I don't know. It was a great week to be a Marvel Snap player.
Oh, yeah. I was playing, like, I play so much Snap on my PC when I work. I found myself playing a lot on my phone this week, just, like, doing, like, Airsham gameplay, doing Infinity Conquest, like, it was a good time. It was definitely a good time. I like that Darkhawk, even though you could put him in the deck, like was a healthy-ish counter to him, so that if you didn't get him, you had, you know, something to go with there. And then what we talk about all the time is like players got to play with cards they don't have because Airsham, you know, randomly generates said cards. So definitely good and just like a fresh take on Snap. Felt like kind of a new game mode, if you will. And I know we'll be talking about him to more extent on your side, bud. But we got a lot to break down today. This is always one of the more long episodes, if you guys are into that. And we are going to break down, obviously, all the new cards coming out. We've got some new things coming, and we're actually going to start in inverse order a little bit because they just dropped this as we were recording, Alex. We've got a new graphic for the upcoming season, and this is what's to come over the next month or so. So we've got, obviously, the Deadpool season, or at least that's the theme of it, even though a lot of these are not from direct Deadpool. But it's all based around Deadpool and Wolverine. No shock there. This is going to be, like, obviously the movie of the year Marvel-wise, and they're capitalizing on it. And so we've got the new season, Maximum Effort. We have Snap Alliances coming out July 30th. We have Deadpool's Diner starting on the 23rd, where you can get Cassandra Nova. More on her later. We have a Deadpool League. This is the first of the announcement, but we're seeing that August 8th to the 10th. Jeff Week, whatever the hell that is. I'm guessing just a bunch of variants. Who knows? August 19th to the 26th. And then we've got Login Rewards, which is this avatar. Pretty cool card altogether, buddy. But I like this little roadmap, man, and the tease ahead with, you know, firm dates.
Yeah, this is awesome. I wish they did this more often. Like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I am so hyped. Jeff Week has to obviously kind of coincide with Shark Week, right? That has to be kind of the joke there.
Yeah.
But like Deadpool's Diner on the 23rd, that's super hype. I mean, if I'm really hoping that that's going to be like a legitimately accessible, you know, free but amazing card that we can kind of play and work towards getting, you know, without having to spend tokens or spotlight keys. I don't know, man. I'm actually legitimately excited about July. There's great cards coming out, great modes. There's a ton of stuff to be done in Marvel Snap.
For sure. I know it's not like the new, the newest game mode that everyone was like, you know, clamoring for, but when you see it all together, July looks stacked. It definitely looks stacked, and the cards look fun and interesting too. I think it's going to be a good one to break down today, so we're going to kind of just jump right into it. We know what we're talking about here. Alex, what are we talking about on your side of the Snapchat?
Cozy, you talked about it before. It's our most favorite episode. We're going to be going back and we're going to be evaluating our evaluations of the cards for June, seeing if we were right, if we were wrong, and holding ourselves accountable, damn it. And then we're also going to be talking about our favorite cards at every cost this past season, a conversation that I absolutely love having with you, Cozy. And then, as always, our Snapchat mailbag.
Well, bud, we've got Gwenpool here coming out as the season pass card arriving Tuesday, and she is a 4-cost, 6-power card for those that don't know. Really cool character. I'm going to go into it, obviously, when I do my deep dives, but I'm excited to break her down and what she does to the Marvel world, per se. But on reveal, pick a random card in your hand 3 different times, Alex, and you're going to give it +2 power each time. Now, this can be the same card. It can be different cards. It's going to be random each and every time. And that theoretically puts her at a 412 value. Very interesting card. I think people are kind of all over the place with her. I think we've seen people excited. I do like that she's just a basic stat stick in a way that's very great for just a season pass card in general. We have a lot to break down. I have tons of synergies with her, tons of notes, but as always, let's start with the star ratings, man. What do you feel?
So I'm leaning towards a 4-star,
Yeah.
but I could also see this landing 3, but I'm going to go 4. Like, I actually feel like this is going to be pretty damn solid. I like the idea of this being like kind of an inverse Ironheart to some degree that can hit like the same card multiple times. I think that you can be kind of creative with the way that plays. I think we've got some tools in even this past season that might actually work very well with Gwenpool. So like I'm gonna go with 4 stars. I can see it being a pretty solid landing, but I don't think it's gonna be broken the way Blink or Loki or any of those cards were specifically.
No, I like that you're on the higher end because from the sentiment that I've seen, some people are lower with her, like just not really seeing the synergy or why you would play her, or if you play her, it's a little bit too late to get the effect here. I like her. I actually think she's going to be great as far as an easy card to play, but also kind of hard to master. I think there's going to be some really unique play lines you can do. I like that you said 4. I was right in between. I went back 3 and 4. Obviously, I do half points, so I ended at 3.5, but like could see the value where she's actually really strong towards the maybe not the first couple of days, but once we've refined the decks a bit. Because the more and more I went to the synergy, it's not even about just how good she is. It's how good other cards that work with her. And so, man, hey, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go 4. We're going to go 4 together on this one, all right? It's going to make the evaluation rankings a month from now a lot easier what we're doing today. And really, I'm going to back up the case in general with the synergies behind her. I think there are some ones that they try to make obvious, and then others not so much. So right off the bat, Alex, having a smaller hand means more dedicated cards that you want to get being hit, and having a larger hand, the earlier you get play her, probably the better in some cases, clearly, to be able to get some of the synergy down. So let's start, man. I'll give it to you because we've got a lot of cards. Where do you see her working best with? What cards? What are the MVP cards with her? Because there's 2 that stand out massively for me.
Okay, so right off the top, there's one card that when I saw this, I was like, all right, maybe this is the chance for the King of Wakanda to finally make a comeback on Curve. Because when I saw this, we had talked like, I think it was like a couple months ago. No, not a couple months ago, a little bit ago. We did the the 5-costed tier list, right? And I was like, we were just lamenting at the King of Wakanda, as I'll say, the Black Panther. And it was so hard to like really try to see how this card fit in the game right now. Like it just doesn't feel like it competes with the other 5 drops. Now, Gwenpool could literally hit this card 3 times. Right? Like that's how it works. And it's also on Curve. So I do think that Gwenpool Black Panther it's got to be amongst the absolute top synergies.
Yeah, and I think this is the first time where, with Fastos, we try to theorize some decks where like maybe you could work with him, but then it's like not really dependable because it's the cost and it's the... Okay, so here's the thing. I think this is where you actually have this Okoye, Nakia kind of build that is based around him and one other card that I'm about to mention, to where you just get that value. Because, yeah, bro, you get this hit even, if you get an Okoye and Nakia, or you just get a double tap from Gwenpool, dude, you're looking immediately at potential 5/16 that you can manipulate later on. Obviously, the Arnim Zola play, but you can, do more than just that. I like it, and I think this is the first where we can have a complete deck built around this boosting power. So who are the anchors of the deck? It's obviously Black Panther, who's going to help with just that immediate burst of power. But, dude, I think we actually now have the potential to have Shaw that's not just limited to the one thing that he's kind of always done, right? Like, he's always been doing the same thing in the Surfer decks. He can hold down a lane vertically, and that's kind of about it. Dude, Shaw's going to be fantastic here with Gwen. I mean, absolute fantastic. And if you build the deck around boosting power, you all of a sudden just have this card that's firing on all cannons because it's separate attempts, right? So it's going to be Shaw getting 6 from the Gwenpool. Nope, that's going to go to 8, going to go to 10, then to 12. This thing's going to skyrocket very fast in boostable power. And to have a couple of options like Black Panther and like Shaw and many others that we'll get to, it's just going to be a win.
I love that you went to this because this is one of those circumstances where I think that Sebastian Shaw might actually be able to take a step outside of Silver Surfer. Because Shaw should be able to get big enough where like the extra +2, which is theoretically +4 for Shaw with the Silver Surfer, might not actually be worth it in the grand scheme of things on like this good card, like power building style deck, right? And so like, I actually would love to see a Shaw come out and just be like, you know what, yeah, this is a 3/8. Or maybe you include Sarah and it's a 2/8 and you're like, okay, like that's absolutely fine. And if it gets hit multiple times and that's multiple buffs, right? So I don't know, man. I like this call out a lot because I think it does a lot for Sebastian Shaw to like get out of this like really intense niche that he finds himself in.
And then I love that if you want to lean into the niche, that also works. If you don't want to do the Black Panther thing, like clearly it's written in the stone, guys, that we have access to Brood, who is a immense candidate for Gwenpool. You would love Gwenpool hitting Brood up. And then we've done this song and dance. It's been in the game. You have Absorbing Man, right? And if you think about this boosting kind of power deck, Absman has a lot of purpose in here, right? Because he's can, whether it's Fastos or even a little bit late, but Gwenpool, you could get, working in there as well. You've got the Brood into Absman. But there's just a lot of potential there as well. So I think just that little package is going to be fun to kind of sprinkle into a lot of different deck builds. And I like that the King of Wakanda could have his place. Shaw could have his place outside of it. Immediately, I love that we went there. I think those are the obvious synergies that should work. And we have a newer 3-cost card, too, that I wanted to mention that I think is interesting synergy, and that's Makari. Now, Makari, I think, has grown better over time. We definitely, I've played against her more often than I thought I was going to. But I like that Makari leaves your hand. So you don't really care if she gets boosted. She's leaving the hand, and that's going to open up other slots for other cards to get that boosting power, which is calculated and nice. And it just kind of works out. You want a smaller hand with Gwenpool some of the times, and this is going to be one of the easiest cards, to get that done.
To keep speaking on the Eternals, like in theory, Gwenpool should work well with even cards like Fastos. So you're, potentially discounting or buffing cards across your deck with Fastos. And then on turn 4, you have Gwenpool as well. And a lot of the decks, I'm sure in terms of their design, they'll have like, they're going to be together because even getting Black Panther to 4 cost or giving it a +2 is significant. So, Fastos might even see a little bit of love with Gwenpool deck design. Yeah,
for sure. And to that point, the Eternal point, the other decks that I like her with, okay, so we got the Black Panther, we got the Surfer. Man, I think this could be a really just solid, kind of like, Miss Marvel's just good value. Where can you play Gwenpool and you don't really care what she hits? Like, you're not hoping for the double tap on Shaw or Black Panther. Clear cut, Gilgamesh Zoo, right? So right off the bat, you've got these cards that are getting boosted. We love that. Easy stuff. But it doesn't matter if she's hitting all these 1-cost Zoo cards. You're cool, man. You can play them all, and you're just getting pure stat value on top of it, right? And you're building into the later game plan with Gilgamesh. So I actually think Zoo is a really interesting build with Gwenpool and just the way that's going to work all together. And I'll get into that more, but what are your thoughts on Zoo and Gwen?
Absolutely. Actually, that was one of the things I was looking at as well. It's interesting because it's going to compete in that like Khazar slot kind of. So you have to like, all right, the +2 on 3 individual cards, is that better than +1 across the board for the 1-drops, right? So I think it's going to take some deliberate deck design. It could be a backup towards like, oh, I didn't drop my Blue Marvel or didn't draw my Blue Marvel, sorry. But Gilgamesh is now not completely useless because there will be games where you're playing Zoo and you don't have those boosted cards. Like you might only have, a Dazzler that's showing positive power and Gilgamesh feels like a waste in your hand. But now Gwenpool will give you that additional opportunity to throw down some power.
Yeah, and the earlier you can play her, the better. So even this could vitalize, something like Psylocke, maybe, dare I say, Zabu. Probably not. But the idea of being able to get her out there as early, get these cards boosted. And I just think Zoo cards make sense, right? Like, even if you go to something like Kitty Pryde, I mean, you're so okay with Kitty Pryde getting the boost. You play her out, maybe a little bit wonky on how you're going to, make that work out with her. But I just see that as a core. Listen, this is what I said when we started the conversation. I like that she's simple in design. You just get the plus power, make your Zoo deck a little bit better. Don't care what it hits. Or the strategic, I'm going to play these 2 cards now, play Gwen so that these 3 cards get boosted up. I have these cards left in my deck, so any of these getting that power as well is hot, works out. That's where I think the synergy is, and that's where I think her big boom potential is, if you will, Alex. And no, let me tell you the biggest boom. Do you know the biggest boom that I think she's going to work with, man? And it's sad to say because here we go again. But have you thought about what's a really, really good card in Snap right now that you think would like Gwenpool?
Mr. Sinister.
Hey, okay, that's not bad. It's another 2-drop. It is a 2-drop.
No, I was just throwing a card out there, but no.
I was like, I got to see where you're
I mean,
going.
technically, Mr. Sinister likes her, but the curve would be kind of weird there.
Yeah, dude. Okay, hear me out, man. Freaking A. Mysterio. Guys. Oh, okay. Okay, hear me out. So Mockingbird, we already know. All right, we'll get to the Mockingbird here in a second. Hell, Sasquatch, right? So my thought was, if Mysterio gets tapped with this one time, hey, great stuff. You got yourself the 2/6 Mysterio, and then you got 2s on the other way. Twice, even more crazy. 3 times, it's just bananas, and the odds of that are very low. But then if the other cards in the deck are Mockingbird, that is another beautiful candidate for Gwenpool. Just free power on top of the cost reduction. Just absolute free power. Sasquatch, same song dance. Now, Mockingbird, you open her up to Shang-Chi potential. But this core package that we've talked about for several weeks now, this is a huge winner for Gwenpool.
No, there's no doubt it is. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, okay, when you play Gwenpool on 4, like what are you aiming to do? You're aiming to buff up the plays on 5 and 6. And if you're holding these Mockingbirds, which tend to like be really inexpensive, right? And if you're like, hey, they don't have Mobius because you're in Conquest, you can hold that, 11 power, 13 power, 15 power Mockingbird to turn 6 to drop it so that it reduces the chances for it to be Shang-Chi'd, right? And like, it brings up a good point though, the way we're kind of talking about the way the power is laid out is one of the major things that when I was trying to figure out Gwenpool's power was the idea that like, it's 4 costed, which is on the later edge of the game. And so that's why, Black Panther playing it on curve is so beneficial. But at the same time, you will be able to find these other synergies where like maybe you play her on 4 and then it's like a Mysterio Bishop on 5, right? And then you do a Sasquatch on 6 with Mockingbird or whatever, right? I think it opens up these additional lines, but it kind of changes the way, like you're not just going to dump your hand early sometimes if you are holding Gwenpool, because you might try to set up your hand for a burst play on 5 and 6.
Yeah, I think there is some, real conversation to be had about the cube thieving potential she has, because your opponent doesn't know about these explosive plays that you have potential to. Like playing the Mysterio into 5 with the Mockingbird and then Sasquatch, that's dude, that's so much power being dumped in in 2 turns that your opponent just probably did not calculate for. I think this week people had the feeling that more than ever with Airship, like there's just no way to, calculate 2 blobs or 2 whatever. Like that woke some people up. And I think that's where some of the potential is with her. I've got some other really cool examples, but I want to give it to you. Got any other synergy up at the top of your head?
I just want to mention that what you're saying is 100% accurate, and it's one of the major advantages with Gwenpool over something like a Ironheart. It's that information asymmetry. Your opponent has no idea what got buffed in your hand, whereas with an Ironheart, they can see it on the board. And so, like, that might not sound significant, but when you're going into turn 6, 8 cubes, Infinity Conquest, or whatever you're doing, that information asymmetry is massive because you're able to make more accurate calculations that your opponent simply cannot account for, and that can be the difference between stealing cubes and losing.
And that's where, like, I had her, like, a 3-star rating when I was thinking of just, like, maybe the Black Panther stuff that I like, but a little bit inconsistent, and we've seen that. But when we just start talking about Mysterio and then some of these other ones we're going to talk about with the Mockingbird, it's like, okay, it reminds me of the pre-nerf Miss Marvel. Not maybe to that extent, but close, where it's like she's just providing the value as you play out the deck as it should be played out.
Yeah, I do think Miss Marvel probably was more cracked than this.
Yes.
Like, I think that Marvel on release, despite my 2-star rating at the time, is gonna listen.
Yeah, it's always has to become up.
Right? I'll never let myself. I'm not gonna let it go myself. Okay, I gotta like own my past transgressions. But yeah, so Miss Marvel, I think, is on a higher level than what I think this will be. But I still think this is very solid. Still a little niche though. I think Miss Marvel had like a very wide application, similar to Hope Summers. Like I don't think this reaches Hope levels. But I think this is good.
No, I don't either. Again, Miss Marvel, the reason she works so well is she legit is going with the game plan for any deck. So like it just worked with whatever you were doing. Whereas this does take, it kind of takes the turn away a little bit. But okay, give me a synergy, bro. What you got?
It's not necessarily a synergy, but can we pour one out for Zabu, because I had this thought. We have this forecasted season pass card, and Zabu has not yet ever resurfaced in the meta. So does Gwenpool get better? This might be coping. This might be hoping, coping. This might be everything. Does Gwenpool get better if Zabu gets changed into an activate card?
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, like, Gwenpool, Zabu died. Gwenpool stabbed Zabu with one of those katanas so that Gwenpool could even live. I mean, Zabu, it's so crazy how much he just disappeared, like, overnight. Yeah, so, I mean, outside of just all the forecasts, yeah. I mean, I think for sure if this is an activate card, although if he's an activate card, you're going to want to activate him, like, right away. I don't know if it's the best example for her specifically, because you would just want that to hit right off the bat, right? Like, it's almost now how you play it. But Psylocke and him could have this niche in those decks where you're trying to target that right off the rip. Let me tell you this, though. Let me tell you. We talked about Surfer a little bit. I brought up Brood. Okay, I brought up Brood. Brought up Abs, man. I like it in another shell outside of Surfer, man. And that's it's my quota at this point. It's the Patriot build, right? So you've got the Brood. You've got the Abs, man. Obviously, we already talked about that synergy. That's just clear, cut, and dry. Patriot also, like, hey, you know, he'll take some bonus power if you want to give it to him. Love the idea, though, of giving Wasp the same thing. Love Wasp just getting that free boosted power. Why not? If you want to even go crazier, I think the potential of playing Hood, call me crazy, but not inside of an Annihilus deck, just getting potentially, you know, a smaller con to get the Demon up, or you get the Demon in your hand, and all of a sudden, dude, you have like a 1-8, a 1-10. That's crazy. That's really high potential on top of having the Patriot. You have Mysterio that can work out with that. And then my favorite build, or at least probably like within a certain point in time, I've loved this for a very long time, the Iron Patriot. Iron Man getting this boost, bro, is massive. Massive.
Yeah, no, there's no question that, like, in a Ravonna type shell where you can, like, Iron Man Mystique, and both of those can kind of absorb that extra energy is crazy, right? It's absolutely insane. Because if you think about it, you could do something like a turn 4 Gwenpool, and then on turn 6 with Ravonna on the board, you could Iron Man Mystique and just, like, double plus the bonus that they've acquired. Like, it's actually pretty insane, as is this variant, by the way. Oh, this variant is unbelievable. Why didn't you get a Cosmic for this one yet?
Oh, dude, I know. I should. I just, it's so clean. I've wanted to leave it as it is. I will say, Ravonna, though, it has to be a 1 power card, so it won't work with the, like, being able to double play, but just being to get the...
Oh, I didn't even realize. No, you're right. That's a misplay on my part. You're right, because Ravonna's synergy breaks when the powers increase, dude. No, good call on that.
But I still think there's going to be Ravonna builds, though, that would utilize the either or situations, right? Because you have cards like Sage, like it's that awkward thing with Bass where like you wanted to Bass a lot of cards, but then like you couldn't, and it was just like this awkward scenario. But I do think there's a world where Ravonna does want to work, you know, with this whole set package. Now tell me this, there are other just like outliers out there. Is this going to be one of the best case scenario uses for something like Grandmaster? Because I thought about this. She's such a late play, so it is a little scary. But just on being able to trigger this twice, right? You play it on 4, potentially. Maybe you somehow get her to 3, but whatever. Let's just say on curve play, right? You get her out on 4. Turn 5, you play Grandmaster plus another card that you're able to put down there. All of a sudden, your turn 6 play, if you build the deck correctly, is getting massive, like there's massive power getting pumped out there. And that's, Grandmaster could be a 2-4 when you play him because the first Gwenpool pass. I think this could work.
I love this because let me rest assured, friends, this is not the last time Grandmaster's coming up today.
No.
And I didn't expect you to bring it out for the Gwenpool, but I can see it. Are we hoping slightly? I think so. I think maybe, because like that would be a pretty wild turn 5. I'm trying to think about like what that turn 5 would look like and what the 6 play would be. But you're not wrong. I mean, double procking that, like that sends her stats through the roof. Like she's almost a 420 at that point.
Well, yeah, but she goes out as 4-6, right? She scans, let's say, there's a lot of potential. She scans Brood, she scans, I don't know, right? It doesn't really matter. But if you get Brood or you have Sage, we can look at some other 3 costs in here. Even high ones like Gladiator, where you're able to play both of these down with the Grandmaster play on 5. Let's say you only have a couple cards left in the hand. Those are getting potentially a ton of stats, man. Like a ridiculous amount of stats to drop into one other lane. You're looking at a Brood that could be dropping, you know, like a like 3 copies of a 3-6 or a 3-8 and 18 power in one play. it's just there's really cool kind of combo potentials into the late turns, and that's where I see this Grandmaster working alongside her cost amount. I actually see this as a plausibility.
One thing worth mentioning, I think that it's like key to understanding why this card I think is better than might be anticipated, is that like unlike an Ironheart, for instance, which kind of puts the power on the board, because Gwenpool's in your hand, not only is it that information asymmetry, but it also protects those cards to some degree from Shadow King. Because much like kind of dropping down a card on turn 6 and having that boosted brood power, they would have to anticipate, play with the initiative, etc., to be able to kind of knock that power out with a Shadow King or with a Shang-Chi. So the ability to kind of play it down, I think, does provide some protection from the effect.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I just think the fact of the matter is, like, yeah, we could talk about the Grandmaster play more, but just in general, like, what are cheap cards that love this? Like, Jeff, man, Jeff getting, like, Jeff as a 2-3 is great. A 2-5 Jeff, a 2-7 Jeff as a surprise play that you could play virtually anywhere is explosive. It's extremely, or honestly, just the move cards, right? Like Nocturne, Vision is an on-curve play that, you know, you're certainly fine with him getting boosted up as well. And do
Multiple
the dump.
man.
Yeah, multiple man. Okay, yeah, I like it. So there are plenty of movement cards too. Human Torch doubles up in power. We know that. I think Move is something we'll look into with her once the activate cards come out. There's that Scarlet Spider where it's like you've got that, it makes an exact clone of that Spider-Man that you play. That's going to be a no-brainer that you're going to probably want to play with Gwenpool, most likely. Like, we're getting these actual, we're getting enough boosted cards to make cases for some more unique deck builds. And I talked about like this turn 6 finisher. There are some really good ones that come to mind. So we said Mockingbird, Alex, okay? I said Mockingbird. But I like the idea of even what we've gone to in the past, the She-Hulk and the Scar. So Scar, obviously anything that can go over 10 power, he's happy with. And you can kind of curve into that with cheaper power. But just getting, dude, again, adding power to cards that you can play cheap is monstrous. That's why I think the Mockingbird model works out so well. And is just way more dependable for Gwenpool, or makes her more dependable.
No, absolutely. There's no question that, like, especially with that, like, that surprise factor of getting like a 1-costed or 0-costed She-Hulk out there as a 6-12, 6-14, whatever it is. I think that's really cool. There's another 6-drop which I have written down, which I think is, I mean, a low-key winner maybe. I don't know if this is, you know, if this is off base.
I've got one. I want to see it. What do you got?
Do you have the Destroyer of Worlds, the
G-Man.
Devourer?
The G-Man.
Yeah, G-Man, come on, man. Like, every single point of power on G-Man, that counts for something.
No, this is no joke. It's like, okay, how do you play, how do you get this ramped out a bit quicker so you can play G-Man on 5, right? So you get the Gwenpool out on 4, and then you're able to play G-Man out on 5 early is sweet. Or you just play him on curve. Now, it's weird because the Goblin package would have to be gone away with, obviously. But 6'7", dude, 6'9", you can win a lot of locations.
There's no question that I think Galactus might be a sleeper here. Like, it might be one of those like get out of jail free cards where like you play something, you're kind of disguising the Galactus play. What if you're playing like a destroy deck with Galactus in it? You know, you give +2 to Deadpool, +4 to Deadpool, whatever it is.
Yep.
You're buffing up these cards like Venom. You're kind of recycling that energy you're using with Gwenpool anyways. And then if it doesn't go well, you just Galactus them.
Okay, not to take away from Galactus, but I was going to say we'd be remiss not to talk about Deadpool, right? It's his season, and I think some of the design was to have these two kind of work together. It's very interesting, kind of weird, because Destroy, I can't tell you how many times I've seen either deck builds or people be like, this new card will work in Destroy, and I'm respectfully, no, it won't, just because it Destroy has such a game plan, such the same thing that it wants to do. And when you're playing something like, you know, Gwenpool, you're not playing Deathlock into your Deadpool. You're not venoming up a lane. Like, it's just taking away from that steam, that engine that you're trying to do here. However, there are going to be some, you talk about rolling some dice, man. But if Gwen were to hit Deadpool a few times, dude, you're getting yourself almost an automatic win. Like, you're getting yourself such a massive card that you'd have to destroy in 5, but it's disgusting.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if it's like, if Deadpool's getting hit by Gwenpool and your opponent sees it and they don't retreat, like, you'd be like, okay, they have Shadow King or Killmonger. There's something, because they've got to leave because this guy is massive now. And I think the key thing too, though, is this is where X23 becomes so important. because you're going to be able to use Gwenpool and sneak out extra cards out every once in a
Yep.
while, right? Because of the way Gwenpool works. And obviously Deadpool's that extra energy that X23 often provides you the chance to play it down. So I do think this is a good call out.
Yeah, man, just a double tap on him. You have yourself a 110 if you destroy him once. A 110. Should I say that again? Like, just that's obviously pretty crazy. There could be a world where we see this Deadpool Taskmaster deck come back in the past, where you've got the whole game plan is just trying to get Deadpool out there, trying to do what you can with Deadpool and boosting him up. And then last play of the game, you play Deadpool and Taskmaster. That used to reign supreme. It used to back in the day, or at least for a hot minute. So definitely, I think Destroy does have a world where it can play. So if you think about it, what we just said, this is why I've been more and more on the difficult understanding why people aren't more excited about her possibility of plug and playable, right? We talked about Zoo. We talked about, obviously, anything with Mockingbird Mysterio, but more specifically, Patriot, potentially Surfer, Black Panther revitalization decks, movement decks, Galactus. Bro, there's a lot of archetypes that Gwenpool's just going to be good in.
Yeah, because that permanent power at the end of the day, that's how you win games of Marvel Snap. Like, you got to put power in 2 locations, and that's how it works, right? And again, having it in your hand, being able to manipulate it, I think it's absolutely huge. And I'm excited for a number of these cards. Specifically, if I got to call it one again, I got to say Black Panther has to be the biggest winner. That's where I'm going with first.
Okay.
And I hope to be able to crack the Black Panther code with Gwenpool.
Mine will be all about Patriot with Iron Man. I think that's just such a cool build together. I think there's a lot of interesting interactions to have there. Mockingbird, Mysterio, all that good stuff. Sadly, I'm going on my first, bro. Like you know this as much as I do. We don't get to ever go on vacation. We travel for trips for like at work, but like this is I have had it planned for a year. Of course, it lines up with the double card release. Don't worry, guys. I'll still manage to get videos. I think I'm gonna film from the beach, bro. But I'm gonna be playing. It's cool. I'm going to put my feet up and actually play Snap and enjoy it like on the go this week. So it'll be a good time.
Yeah, I might actually be in the same position. It's funny because you book these things in advance. You're like, does the calendar seem clear and stuff like that? You try to figure it out. Next thing you know it just never works out like you planned. Things shift around. And I mean, it's crazy. You can never plan ahead as a content creator, right? It's there's no sick days. You can never take a day off. You just gotta cope, I guess.
Yeah,
like,
do what you can.
Film
man.
on the beach.
Do what you can. Well, guys, we'll go to our next card. That's going to be it for Gwenpool. I think Alex and I both would recommend. Probably worth grabbing for the season pass. We go to the next card, Hydra Bob. Hydra Bob has been changed a little bit, and we have our first card ever that interacts with the Snap mechanic directly. It is a 1-cost 4 power card. After each turn, this moves if a player snapped. All right, so very interesting mechanic. Great stat line as a base 1-4. We have Martyr at a 1-5 that actively tries to lose you the game. What do you think about Hydra Bob?
For me, Hydra Bob, I hope his VFX is like a diarrhea sound because this card's poo.
Really? You think he's poo? Explain it.
I don't think he's poo. I liked his original version better. Like he was far better prior when he used to move when you were losing a location, which I thought was really cool. But it was almost like a pseudo Captain Marvel effect because if you're losing there and he just dips out, it's like, okay, that actually might win me another lane, I guess. So I figured they tried to change it. The only thing here is, I don't know, man. I'm like not even happy about a 2-star. Like I'm not going to say 1. I don't think he's that bad.
Okay.
But I'm leaning on the 2-star, like low 2-star range. If I could say 1.5, I might.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I originally, when I was looking at like his ability and the synergies, I kind of was lower on him, but then when I just like I slowed down for a second. 2 things. First, I do not think this is a must get for you guys. I don't think this is a must open. Like there's a difference between that and the value I'm going to give him. I might just give him a base 3-star rating, maybe a 2.5 because of just the stats, dude. He's a 1-4 with nothing that actively hurts him and agency that you can utilize, right? So now, and here's the other thing. Deadpool Diner, we don't know everything about it. I don't know if you can snap multiple times in a Deadpool Diner game. Like I don't know the mechanics of that. Kind of makes me think like that's something that's going to happen. And then you actively want to play him in the game mode. You have a Craven and you can keep moving him. You can keep snapping. I just like the idea that, you're in turn 6 of or let's say Conquest, right? You're in Infinity Conquest. It's neck and neck. The opponent knows that they're losing, but if they snap, they can move your Hydra Bob and have a chance to win. But then you could snap too. Like, dude, that to me, I love the idea of snap mechanics tied in a little bit. I don't want too many, but into card abilities. But dude, I just think the base value of him, he's not essential, but he's going to be a good value static card.
First of all, great point. In my rating, I had not considered Deadpool Diner and how that might actually interact with the card, so that could change everything most certainly. The other thing worth noting is that I'm concerned. I'm concerned that the reason why we didn't like original Meek, despite the power levels it was getting to, which honestly, we were doing machine gun decks, we were doing all these discard decks. Meek was like a 1-9, a 1-12, a 1-7, right? And because of that random movement, it was frustrating. And there was a huge buff when that random movement was taken away from Meek. Let's not forget how much of a different card Meek became. And this kind of, to some degree, has that Meek text. You don't get to, don't have the agency. Now you could snap and then move it somewhere. That's pretty cool, right?
Yep.
But I don't think it's enough for move decks. The only place where I think it might be good is it's a 1-power card that maybe on turn 6 you play and it got hit by Gwenpool a couple times. You know what I mean? Like, and it doesn't really betray you.
Yeah, so there's that, like, okay, the Deadpool Diner thing is a massive condition. If you can snap a bunch, I like the card. If not, I like it less. I probably bump it down. The thing is, I just don't know if it makes a bunch of decks, to your point. Now, the Angela Kitty Pryde deck, I think it could work in there because you can you have a 1-cost card that you can easily move out of the Angela lane by just like, you're going to snap anyway. You play Angela down, you throw a Hydra Bob, snap, it moves. You can, do what you want there. I also like the idea of, like, you have one location full, you're playing another one, Sanctum Sanctorum's over there, you have no cards that can reach there, and you're like, dude, if I just snap, Bob's going over there. Bob is 100% going over there. To your point, though, the randomness sucks. It would be so cool as if you snapped and the next turn, you have control of Hydra Bob, kind of like how Meek was, yeah.
Yeah, but there's another thing worth noting here is that snapping is not a free condition.
No.
It removes your ability to retreat on that turn, right, of course. It doubles the stakes of the game. And so, like, to snap just to, like, nonchalantly move Hydra Bob is probably a detrimental game plan. And so, like, it's just like, oh, you snap and it moves, but it's like, bro, that could be a heavy toll. Very heavy toll.
For sure. Yeah, and so if Deadpool's Diner does not equal a lot of snapping, then yeah, maybe he goes down a bit. And here's the cool thing, guys. There's so many cards. I feel like, Alex, we've done a pretty good job advising which cards to go for in the last couple of months. Airsham, we save up. There are other ones coming out, and so Hydra Bob, I think at a base value, I think he's fine, unless it's like a Nico kind of card. It's just 1-drops. You just don't need to use Spotlight Caches for. It's just not worth it in the long run. He's not going to transform a game, at all. There's no way this transforms a game, and in that, light, he's like a 1-star. But I think the base value is interesting, and I like these kind of higher 1-cost cards with certain drawbacks per se. And 1-4. It'd be nice to see if he could gain +1 power, even just +1, because he's not out of control, right? Because if you snap, the most he'll get is +2. He'll be a 1-6. Both players snapping. I feel like that may be needed, right? And it's actually, I want to take this time to say, guys, they have not released the season video on these cards, so these could change again. We don't know. They could change ever so slightly. We haven't seen it all that much happen. There's one that I think might change, and we'll get to. But yeah, overall, Hydra Bob, I think we're both kind of meh on it. I'll settle on 2.5. Alex, you're on low 2, correct?
Yeah. And I mean, it is a pretty decent spotlight week with Nebula and Galactus, though. So, like, those are 2 cards you want in your collection. Galactus not as relevant right now, but I still think it's really fun. And if you didn't have the keys for, or the tokens for Nebula, it's probably low-key one of the best 1-drops in the game that really does not get talked about very often. It's a very steady winner for you, so it's definitely worth getting from that point. But yeah, Hydra Bob, it feels like a definite skip for me.
All right, well, let's go to the next card, and this one I'm very interested in talking about because I've seen most people rate it complete garbage. It is Ajax. Now, Ajax was a 4-cost. It's gone to 5, and there's so much to talk about with this card here. Ajax is a 5/5. Ongoing, +1 power for each card in play afflicted with negative power. Alex, what is your initial impressions on Ajax?
I started at a 4 rating. I come in high on Ajax. I ended up writing down 3, but if I could say 3.5, would you give me permission to say 3.5? Like, can we do that? I don't like it. I hate it. I feel dirty doing it, but I'm going to say, no, I can't do it. Okay, no, I'm going to do it. 3.5. Because I'm honestly, like, I'm all over the place with Ajax. Because I think he was a 4-star card at 4. Like, at 4/4, I think that was a far better stat line for him. 5/5, that's a nerf. That's a heavy nerf. Because, like, listen, those energy points, that's a big difference, right? So for me, I think 3.5. Oh, I hate doing it, but I'll say 3.5.
This is going to be one of the most interesting cards to test, and I'm all over the place with him. I think a lot of people just don't see it at 5.5, and I get you. I think they've recognized that he's a later game play. Obviously, there's a lot of things you want to do before it, but then that does a couple of things. It tells your opponent what you're doing, like you're not having any surprises here. And then also, it's just a little wonky how he works out. Is that power going to make sense? Now, let me just make sure everybody is well aware of something and where the potential is with this guy. It is both your side of the board and the opponent's. That is a potential. Obviously, it's not going to be this much, but a potential 24 cards or other cards. I guess 23 outside of Ajax, right? That's like an extreme example, but obviously there's a lot of power potential for Ajax. He's ongoing, which is super complicated in a lot of different ways, but there's also tons of cards that have easy synergy to make this happen. Negative power is all you need. Now, you can't boost the negative power back up. It's going to probably work a lot like Abomination. He needs to see this negative power on the board, then it can work. There are some combos, though, that I think, Alex, are absolutely nuts. And I wouldn't be surprised that in tomorrow, if we find out updated versions of the card, that Ajax is a contender of that potentially. Let's talk synergy, though, buddy. And by the way, I'm going to join you. I'm all over the place. I'm probably going to say 3.5 like you are, but I could see down to 2.5 or up to 4.5. It just depends on maybe 4. It's going to, not 4.5, that's way too high, but it's going to depend on some of this synergy. Let's talk about it. What synergy do you like with Ajax?
First of all, Cozy casting the widest net possible on Ajax there.
Yeah, it's true.
He's somewhere between 1 and 5. I'm not sure.
Somewhere in there. Yeah. He's bad or good. But yeah, the net is wide, and I think it depends on just the play patterns here. But at first glance, he's like the Ronin Devil Dinosaur, right? Like, it's just kind of weird.
Yeah, he's like the Ronin Devil Dinosaur of negative power, which I thought was pretty cool. I had this thought, and like, again, this is going to take some very careful deck building because of the ongoing effects specifically. But I had this thought of like, okay, what if you zoo out early turns, and then you play Typhoid Mary on 4, on 5 you play Ajax, and then on 6 you do like a Squirrel Girl into, no, not Squirrel Girl into, you would do like Taskmaster to pick up that negative power from Ajax, right? I was like, could that potentially work? And then you're just like really going aggressive on 2 lanes, but like, okay, Ajax is huge, Taskmaster is huge, but everything else is red. It all depends on what you've done to the other side. Like, is this a Man-Thing card?
So I love that you brought this up because straight up, guys, the ongoing is the worst part about the card, right? Because like you can't Typhoid then Luke Cage because it's gone. You lose all that power just like that. So it's super awkward. But to your point, you can do enough damage. You can do enough damage on turns 1 through 4 before you put Ajax out there. And then yes, you can do the Taskmaster. You can do whatever, behind that. I like the Man-Thing call. Let's kind of start from the bottom, right? So starting at the 1-cost slot, right? You've got Celine. That's kind of the only option there. Maybe I doubt it's going to make the initial cut here. But then we get into the obvious more options that just work. First and foremost, does this count as a negative card on the opponent's side? This has -4 power. I would like to think so. I think it's a 0. Oh, sorry, I'm covering it up. White Widow. Widow's Kiss.
Say, buddy.
Yeah, Widow's Kiss. Does Widow's Kiss count because it's a 0/0 that goes down -4? I think this will count.
It does count because it works with Abomination, yes, sir.
Okay, so you've got that directly with Scorpion. Both of those, fantastic openings for Ajax, yeah?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, listen, in slot, White Widow is basically the best 2-drop in the game right now. Like, amongst the best 2-drops in the game. And so it wouldn't surprise me. Celine's definitely coping, right? Scorpion, White Widow, definitely impactful. I think that Scorpion is less likely to be in those decks as opposed to White Widow, because I think White Widow's just too good. I think it's just too good. It works with so many different locations. But Scorpion's easy. Scorpion's a great turn 2 play, especially if they're getting greedy, they're skipping. I don't know, man. I think that there's a lot of ways to put negative power on the board, and I think we're on to the early start.
I think he'll make it. I think Scorpion, obviously, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Hazmat. I think both these cards are going to make it as we get to our later gameplay, and I'll explain why. Like, Scorpion is such a great 2-play. White Widow's a safer one that you can get down pretty reliably here. Now, obviously, you have the High Evo build, where you could go with the Abomination route with Cyclops. Is that something you're going to mess with, or do you think it's kind of this independent build?
No, I think it's great. I think that there is potential with High Evo. The challenge is that Ajax is just, it's expensive.
Yep.
It's expensive at 5. You would benefit from playing like a Magic style game. But the other side to that is Ajax's power is going to be limited because you're not generally putting negative power on your own side of the board at that point in time. You're trying to negative them. And so, like, does he even outperform an Abomination? right? Like really, because if they have four, like he's if at four kind of debuffed cards on their side, he's a 5/9. Abomination can be a 0/9 or a 1/9.
I like him as an alternate. You know, like when you're doing that deck and you don't get Abomination, dude, it's so bad. It's just like, okay, well, I did all that for nothing. Whereas like the debris play with the Hazmat, or the debris play with the Psylocke, like I did that way back when Grandmaster came out. That was like one of the decks I did. I could see that being a build, and then you kind of hope for one or the other. You have one of those two work. You know, I think you brought up a great point. Typically, when you Hazmat, you're screwing yourself so hard. Or when you Typhoid Mary. But if you can play all those cards out with Typhoid, and then you have two bombs, right? So you just said Ajax and Taskmaster, or Ajax, Abomination, or, sorry, Ajax, Mystique, Abomination, potentially. Like, you have a couple ways to build so much high power quickly that it doesn't matter, and you've pushed your opponent so hard on the negative. Now, we're not crazy, guys. Obviously, Luke Cage will be everywhere. On the week of Ajax, this will be something that kind of naturally happens as the card expands himself over time. But, dude, I think that this could just work as a base game plan. Like, something as easy, we skipped over him. Yellow Jacket. Yellow Jacket inflicts -3 power, technically, on that entire lane right when you play him down. Free option to add immediately. He's at 0-5 because of Ajax. You can make him, you know, a 0-5 card play. So I think there's some unique things that we haven't seen with Ajax that people might be, you know, not really thinking about.
There's also kind of like this reverse design element to Ajax, what I think is cool. You can have Ajax on the board. You can Mystique it on turn 6. And then if you've played Magic, with a turn 7, you could do like a Wong Hazmat combo where everything on the board drops, but then Ajax and Ajax and Mystique skyrocket.
Yeah.
Because basically you're debuffing everything, and because they're ongoing abilities, they jump on turn 7.
Yes, dude. This is what I'm talking about. I think people immediately just kind of thought about like, well, they took him from 4, and a lot of people just had the idea of like Hazmat and Ajax. I do think Magic is going to be an important card to have with him overall. But we have just a lot of options now. We have a lot of different options that can work. Obviously, Thing, we talked about, Cyclops can work in there. And this is like big Ajax, by the way. We're talking about like freaking 17, 18 power Ajax. But even just getting him to that 12 power mark is not... Dude, that's so easy. That's 3 cards, man. That's nothing. 3 cards on each side. That's absolutely nothing. So I think... People looked at Gilgamesh. They said he was terrible on release. They had to buff him up to make him better, but it's a lot harder to get the boosts on your side and make complete use of it than Ajax, in my head, a little bit. That's why the variance is so high in this card. It's either or, working him out, it's going to be a lot better post-release once the Luke Cage era has died down.
Yeah, because this is such a unique design, it's just going to take time. It's just going to take time. Like, it's one of those, like, first impressions videos where it's like, hey man, this might change a lot, because I think that it's one of those easy overlooked cards on the first couple days, and then 4 or 5 days later, someone somewhere figures out the deck, right?
Yeah.
And it completely crushes. And that's where I think Ajax could end up.
And he'll have his unique deck, I think. And I think he's very needed for the Abomination build, because that build just needs help. It just doesn't really exist outside of that. So definitely will be interesting for some. Overall, once again, though, could be a pass. I think could be a pass overall once we go through kind of the rest of the season. Going into next season too is really strong. But let's go to the next card, Alex, and we've got our hands full with this one. We've got Copycat. This is my contender to get changed before the season comes out. I covered this in Data Mines a couple months ago, and as I was reading it, I couldn't understand. It was just so strong. I couldn't. I was trying to think of cons to this card. Spoiler: this is my favorite card of the month. I think this is my 5-star card, especially if it comes out like this. I can't see it in any other way. Copycat is a 3-cost, people. 3-cost, 5 power card, premium stat. We love the stat line. When you draw this, so it's free, guys. When you draw this, you steal the text from the bottom card of your opponent's deck. When you draw her, right off the rip. Crazy. Absolute craziness. Because it gives you information, Alex, right off the rip. You know what cards they're not going to get. They weren't going to draw it anyway. I don't care. There's Shang-Chi. Fantastic. You have a 3/5 Shang-Chi, and they don't have one. 5-star for me, buddy. What about you?
You are the Copycat. because this is supposed to be one of my favorite cards of the month. I didn't go to 5 stars. This is a very solid, confident 4 for me.
Oh my god.
I'm like, listen, this is insane. This is insane for all the reasons why we talked about, how like that. I feel like I've said it 9 times already this episode, but we liked Gwenpool's information asymmetry, and that's exactly what Copycat does. They have no idea what you have, but if their Hell is at the bottom of their deck, if their Shang-Chi's at the bottom of their deck, everything you need to know. If there's Silver Surfers there, that's huge. It's a 12-card game. They're only not drawing like 2-3 cards of their deck every game. Are you kidding me? This is crazy. And if they do happen to draw it, it's useless.
It's dead card. Can I ask why not a 5-star? Because hear me out, dude. You have premium stats, 3-5, right off the rip, premium stats. You don't have to play it. You get information, and on top of that, you have a larger chance for a 3-5 with an insanely good ability. We're talking things like Iron Man. We're talking Brood. We're talking anything. And if it's a bad ability, you don't play it, you got information by drawing the card. That to me screams like how this is the card. I don't even see this launching as is. I like maybe 3-4.
The reason why is because there's 2 things. One, you only let me pick 1 5-star every month.
Fair enough.
And 2, so hint, there might be another card I really like too.
Yep.
And number 2 is that like you could just end up copying their like Squirrel Girl, and you're like,
sure.
Sick. It's still good, I guess, but like you might get something that's relatively useless. There's still that RNG factor where you're like, oh, I'm getting a card that really doesn't impact me. This is a 3-5 I don't want to play. What if you hit Green Goblin and you're like, hey, sick?
Yeah, that's that's so one off. Like I'm trying to think of like, Thena, okay, fantastic. Angela, Mysterio. I like go through your head all the popular decks, and there's so many cards in that slot. Not to mention, like it's gonna be there really, but Surfer, this is just a must. This is a must add. This is a no-brainer Surfer card. But I also think this is gonna be the new Cable, but better, used in every deck, used for information, has the pop-off ability of getting a Galactus freaking on turn 3 for 3 cost. We're getting an Arnim Zola or whatever. A Hope Summers. I just think Copycat is the card of the month because of the perfect middle ground of her cost, her value, the power, and the ability.
Listen, you're preaching to the converted. I love Copycat. The whole week's amazing. On my Spotlight Cash video, I almost gave this a 5-star week. It's got Cull Obsidian. It's got Thanos in it. This would indicate to me,
so good.
This is a great week. So good. This would indicate to me that Thanos gets modified in an OTA or patch prior to this. Maybe another couple changes, give a shot to make it a little more relevant. Copy. This is insane. Like this is one of those you're saving up cashes for. 100%.
This is
like
I
think Copycat's fantastic, and I think Cull Obsidian and Thanos are fantastic.
And funny enough, this is one of the cards I have like almost 0 synergy outside of Surfer because it's like you don't know, right? So like it could just be played into most. It's like saying what synergy. Well, Iron Lad even has obviously much better synergy outside of her because you can have like Blue Marvel, Doctor Doom, whatever that might be. I just think it's so nuts that this also can be played for the 3-cost slot of whatever you might pull from their deck, and you take that away from them. You have that agency. The thing is though, this is the kicker. Actually, this is gonna be vital. Does your opponent see what you copy? If your opponent sees what you copy, then it's very interesting because then you don't get that agency. Then they know they don't have Shang-Chi. You copy their Hela, they're playing a Hela deck. They're just going to retreat at that point, right? So that actually could be the way to make her much more fair. And even then, I still think she's a good card.
This is the exact thing that I was worried about. And I don't have the answer for because we haven't seen the video yet. But it's like the VFX. There's been 2 examples of this where the VFX have completely changed the relative power of a card. You had Iceman versus Spider-Ham. Yep. Spider-Ham revealing the card being hit. And then you got Red Hulk and Hulk, where Red Hulk is showcasing its power in your hand, right, to the opponent. If Copycat happens to showcase itself and it shows, hey, I just stole the text of your Hela, that is a totally different thing because then you lose snap equity there because they're like, well, I obviously have lost this game. Right? Like that is very clear. But if they don't know that and you know that, then that's absolutely insane, cracked, and like just incredible. But there is one synergy I wouldn't mind mentioning, but you're right. Like it's hard. Like there's not really like combo cards with this, but it does makes one archetype kind of better. I want to make a case for Baron Zemo. Because Baron Zemo often plays some of these lower value cards that just tries to do its thing. But I think if like you cut something like a Yondu and you add Copycat, and you play your cable, and then all of a sudden you might be in a situation like, you know what, you're actually putting down a little bit more power while still disrupting them, and that last straw is useless anyways.
Yeah.
So I think that like a more refined version of Mill that actually focuses on using Copycat as like a nice value piece might actually be a little bit of a boost for that deck.
Yeah, so between her and the next card, it's funny, I had on my notes too. I think both Mill and or just like toxic style of cards is where Copycat would love to be, right? Because you're already taking cards with cable, you're destroying it, you're Zemoing, and then like the card left, you've siphoned, like, or you've stole the text. Like, yeah, I do think this is a nice and, might I say, needed addition to Mill overall. And Copycat, I just don't see, again, 3 upsides. If your opponent could see it, then 2 upsides and a downside. That isn't even that massive of a downside, depending on the game mode, whatnot as well. Especially, talk about, again, Deadpool's Diner, where you can't leave. You can't leave, like, or whatever, right? Like, we don't know the full mechanics. Legit, Alex, I have seen nothing on the game mode. There's no sneak peeks.
If you haven't seen it, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I've seen nothing, dude. But like, if you have like a high stakes thing going on and she steals it and you take their Shang-Chi, they've got to finish that out. They've got to finish that out either way. So Copycat, my card of the month, maybe goes down a tad if they get to see what you've taken. Only time will tell. And we have one other card that is Alex's favorite and up there as mine, and it's not coming in Spotlight, at least from what we've seen. It's coming through Deadpool's Diner, and I got to give it to him, man. They could have put Hydra Bob in Deadpool Diner, right? They could have done just a kind of a overall like meh card. No, they put a potential hyper contender in Deadpool's Diner that you can get for free, and that is freaking awesome. I love it. We have Cassandra Nova, who's going to be appearing in Deadpool vs. Wolverine. 3 cost 1 power card on reveal. You're going to steal 1 power from each card in your opponent's deck. Alex, definitely new, definitely exciting. What do you think?
So first of all, kudos to Second Dinner. You're 100% right. They could have put absolute fodder into the Deadpool's Diner. They could have put nothing in Deadpool's Diner. They could have had just like, oh, you get a premium mystery variant. Congrats, bro. Like, they could have put nothing in there.
Yeah, right.
But they actually put, which I think is going to be an insanely competitive card. I think this is a very, very powerful card. It's my 5-star of the month. Listen, the text got changed from drain 1 power to steal 1 power. I think that it was always meant to kind of add that additional power to Cassandra. If you like Airsham, by the way, and you think Darkhawk's a problem, get ready for Cassandra Nova, because she be feasting. And I mentioned it before, and I would be remiss not to speak the name of Grandmaster. Can you imagine Grandmastering Cassandra Nova?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. You play her on turn 3, if my math serves me correct, she's approximately the 3/7 right off the hop, while also not even taking into account the Scorpion effect you did to their entire deck. Buddy, this is crazy. This is an awesome card. And if Thanos gets super powerful from the prior week, then this is a nice counterplay to Thanos. So like, I think they're setting themselves up for some OTAs. Man, I'm so hyped up.
Yeah, this was I literally had 5-star, scratched it out because I can only have 1, and then went down to 4.5. Because here's the deal. What I love about her is, first of all, yes, I think Airsham is doing very well in the game right now. This is that direct counter to it, direct counter to Thanos. And then if you think about it, like, obviously the earlier you play her, the better. She loses a lot of her value if you play her late. I do understand that. But that pop-off potential to have her, to have Grandmaster, I think, to your point, there's synergy with Ajax, because you play her down, guess what? Negative power cards all over the place. Easy peasy, right? So I think there's synergy there. She has synergy with what I think is the best current 2-dropper right there in Ravonna Renslayer, so that's also fantastic. Absorbing Man, back-to-back blows right off the bat. 3 and 4. You're making your life of your opponent complete hell in like a potential Mill-style deck. It's evil. It's pure evil, and that's what Cassandra Nova is, and I love the flavor. Also, just cool Odin play, too. She could be on the board. I'm so surprised she's an on reveal. I'll be honest. I thought she might have just had like the base text. Playing Odin, yeah, they don't have as much cards, but you still get to get a little bit over the top, and she's in a lane with other cards doing their thing, doing whatever they want to do. This is cool. This is a very well-designed card. It's scary. I'm a little scared what might happen here with Cassandra, but it's not just a simple 3/7, 3/8, 3/6, but you're taking from the opponent, so it's even more.
You could even see a deck that has like a Silver Surfer style play, but instead of running like Nova Killmonger, you run Korg Rock Slide, because you're putting rocks into the deck, and those rocks will get negative debuffed to feed into Cassandra Nova. They're not looking to play those, but you're disrupting their play that might draw into them. But most importantly, she's actually she's getting the benefit from it.
Yeah, dude, it's such a cool, unique, different style of gameplay. And again, Luke Cage, stocks are going to go up, but here's the deal. You can restore your card's powers, but that doesn't take away from Nova having that power. She's going to still have it. So you're going to have Gilgamesh synergy. You're going to have Ajax synergy, both sides of that coin. How about Wong? How about Wong? That's stupid. That's like
nothing wrong with Wong.
Oh my gosh, man. At that point, turn 4, they're going to have not too many cards in the deck, but they're going to have enough where you can get, the double tap.
I mean, we're forgetting that like Airshim's like 75% of the meta right now, Cozy. So
yeah, right, dude. This is such an insane Airshim card. Like but playing this against somebody with Airshim is just almost a game set match, like right off the rip, man. Any other synergy you want to talk about with her?
I just think that like at the end of the day, this is fantastic. Like it really is fantastic. I spoke about Grandmaster, which was like kind of like my main copium thing. You touched on Ravonna Renslayer, which obviously you can see a deck working with Ravonna, Cassandra Nova, and of course Sage, right? And this is likely to have a very unique power line because of this, the kind of the drain effect, right? So Sage is likely to proc off it as well. I just think this card's going to be absolutely cracked. And again, I need to reiterate this, very, very strong choice from Second Dinner to make this one the one for Deadpool's Diner. Potentially the card that is going to be accessible for free from players through achieving success in Deadpool's Diner. That's awesome.
And I think if you see Ajax be a remotely good card, towards the end of the week, you might need to get him, because then you have Cassandra Nova that's going to be like this literal perfect curve puzzle piece for Ajax, and it's going to send him even more so over that roof of dependable, right? So that's going to be the tricky thing. I don't want people to skip out on Ajax. Cassandra comes out. You need Ajax and Cassandra to have the meta deck, and then it's, you know what I mean? I'm a little concerned about that, but definitely we've got ourselves a pack. We've got ourselves a packed month, to say the least, guys. We covered all the cards. As always, Alex and I end the pod, even though we have a couple things to talk about, but we end the pod with our final rankings through the month. We're going to be ranking them in order. Do we want to start at 1? You want to start at 5? What do you want to start with?
Start with 5. I'm willing to go 5. I think is going to be Hydra Bob.
5 being Hydra Bob. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think Hydra Bob is going to be the least needed card within the month. At number 4, who do you got?
Number 4 is hard for me. I think I'm going to go Ajax.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we're going to have a very similar order. I think, what is it? Ajax do you go to Gwenpool, then to Copycat, then to Cassandra for you?
Yes, that's my order.
Okay, so Copycat would be my 1, Cassandra's my 2, Gwenpool's 3 for me. Ajax could boost up, but he's going to be the 4, and then 5 is okay. Yeah, that was easier.
Strong month.
Yeah, strong month, and we're going into 2 other strong months as well. I think Hydra Bob is the first week, guys. Kind of perfect. You just spent all your cashes on Airshim. You're going to have to, you can
get a breather.
Go ahead and save up. Now, we already talked about it at the beginning of it, but we did talk about the July ahead. Again, mark your calendars for the later half of the month, and that's going to be the stronger, crazier side, and definitely looking forward to it. Guys, we're going to be talking about all the final rankings from June on Alex's side of the Snapchat. We're also going to be talking about our favorite cards at every single cast and the Snapchat mailbag. I'm pumped, man, for this month. You guys have a good one. Have a great one. Till the next one. Happy snapping.